Hey guys, and welcome to my tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can create normal maps inside Blender 2.8 for games or for film purpose. Recently I was busy in making a glock gun in Blender, so I decided to make a tutorial on baking of normal map. In 3D computer graphics, normal maps are a special kind of bump map that is used as a technique to fake the lighting of bumps and dents. It is used to add details without using more polygons. This technique greatly enhances the appearance and details of low poly model by generating a normal map from high poly model, or you can say height map. Normal maps stores RGB colors as a 2D texture where the colors correspond to the XYZ coordinates. So in this tutorial I'm going to demonstrate how you can create a normal map inside Blender 2.8 to help you understand the process. First I will be using simplified meshes, and then I will use complex model like this gun. So what you need to do is first press tab to enter in edit mode and select all edges by pressing A. Now press Ctrl B to bevel the edges and then scroll the middle mouse button to increase the number of bevel edges. Go to shading tab and select the shade smooth to make the shading smooth. Press Ctrl R and then by scrolling the middle mouse button you can increase the number of edges. Change the name of the mesh to high poly. To make low poly mesh, press Shift D to duplicate the mesh and then name it low poly. And then in edit mode, just get rid of the extra edges by dissolving them. Select the edges and then press X, then select dissolve edges. But make sure it retains the shape closer to high poly. After this we need to make UV map for the mesh. So select the edges . Press Ctrl E and select Mark Sharp. And then again press Ctrl E and select Mark Seams. The mark seams will help the software to know where to cut the mesh into 2D plane. For UV map, and mark sharp is used for edge split modifier, which helps the software to split the mesh and helps in baking the high poly smooth shading normals. I'm going to split the viewport into 3 viewport and change the first one to UV editor and second one to shader editor. In shader viewport, press Shift A and search for image texture. You can switch the and maximize the viewport by pressing Ctrl spacebar. Now click new and set the resolution to 4096 or to 2048. Change it to the non-color data. Press Shift A again and search for normal map. Connect the normal map node and connect the image texture to normal map node and normal map to unnormal. Now select the image texture in UV editor and make sure that the high poly doesn't have the same shader as your low poly, so remove the shader or add new material. Now select low poly and in modifier tab select edge split modifier, then uncheck the seams. Now in edit mode select all the mesh and then press U on keyboard and select UV unwrap. Change the method from angular to conformal. Try to increase the margin so that the UV island separates a bit far distant from each other. Press tab to exit to object mode and select high poly mesh first, and then with press shift select the low poly. Now go to the render tab and select cycles for render engine and then Under the baking, change the bake type to normal and check selected to active, and then increase the ray distance and then click bake. The low poly can bake the normal by tracing the high poly details by casting its normal ray inwards. I'm duplicating the low poly and hide the previous low poly, and select the developer's look and use bright HDR so that you can see if there are any artifacts like seams in shading, and also change the material to more metallic and more reflective. As you can see, there is not a single seam on it, but if any artifact occurs, you can use a technique which uses low poly cage. The artifacts occurs if some part of the low poly is inside the high poly or their position is not in same location. So I'm going to delete the edges of the low poly to make it go inside the high poly, and then again select all the edges, mark the seams, mark sharp and make UVs of the low poly. Now duplicate this low poly and apply displacement modifier on it. Change the order of displacement modifier, and by playing with the mid-level value, try to cover the high poly model with it. After that, change its name to cage. Now just select the high poly and then the low poly again. Go to the render tab and now check the cage and select the cage model and increase the ray distance and click bake. With this technique you can bake flawless normal map or any other map that is available under baking type. Now I'm going to show you how I baked the normal map for the gun. It was same as what I did with the box meshes. First I'm going to get rid of the normal map texture that I've already created for this gun. Now I'm going to make a new map for this tutorial. For the gun, I have used 4096 resolution to get whole details of the whole gun inside one map. You can use many maps if you want to get more resolution, but for game try to enclose all of the map details in one map. Select the high poly model first and then the low poly, and as I have done previously, select the bake type and then click the bake button. Unlike the box meshes, I had modeled the low polygon model first and then added some edge loops to make it high poly. In that way, it was much easier for me to bake the normals of the gun, but it's up to you whether you want to make the high poly first, but make sure that if later you are going to bake the low poly, it's very important to optimize it in such a way that it doesn't get any artifacts while baking. The low poly gun model was very close to high poly model, so I didn't use the cage model technique for this gun. The bumps on high poly model on the gun, I have created them while using the built-in procedure textures and converted them into normals. So while baking it, it has also baked the normal bump map of high poly to low poly. I hope that this tutorial is beneficial for you. If you like my tutorial, you can subscribe to my channel, and you can also follow me on Patreon, where you can get the project files and even the models that I have used in this tutorial. Thanks for watching.